Right, we'll get into some sub-intel, which is indicative, hints, or stuff we've covered previously. But Trump, on Thursday, marked the inauguration of a US military command for space that's designed to aid in missile tracking, it says, and space operations, countering what officials say are growing threats from Russia and China. Oh my. We'll have more on that later. And the quote was, "Spacecom will defend America's vital interests in space," and labelled it the next war-fighting domain, Trump said at a Rose Garden ceremony this past week. Now, Space Command, led by Air Force General John Raymond, becomes the 11th US combatant command, joining others such as Indo-Pacific Command and Cyber Command. Space Command was created by Trump with an executive order last December as part of an overhaul of military space operations that also included a request that Congress authorize US Space Force, a proposed branch of the military, for organising, training and equipping troops focused on space. I'll have comment on that later. This is something I've covered extensively in several shows, including one recently about the French police. And also as far back as 2014, I did a piece with Drake, where I actually contacted a former police officer who had been on PBS, talking about the dangers that the police face and how regulations is not working in their favour and they're not really doing the job anymore, etc., etc. This report that came out this week is the death of 9 New York police officers this year has left family members, law enforcement and politicians pointing fingers and placing blame. Yes, they're keen on that after the event. You know, if I can come up and state the warnings in a show 5 years ago, why haven't these politicians or police authority people come up with it? But suicide is a more profound problem, deeply entrenched in the police culture. In 2018, a nationwide study found more law enforcement officers died by suicide than in line of duty. And researchers say that police officers are at a higher risk of suicide than any other profession due to a combination of intense stress, pressure to conceal emotional distress, and easy access to deadly weapons. In fact, 13 out of every 100,000 people die by suicide in the general population, but that number climbs to 17 out of 100,000 for police officers. Now, last year, 167 police officers took their own lives, while so far, with a third of the year still to go, 130 have done it this year. And according to a Massachusetts-based police suicide prevention group that tracks the national rate, and these numbers only reflect confirmed suicides. Some suicide prevention advocates say current estimates could be much higher, as some families chose not to report the cause of death or instead describe it as accidental, like doing a police report then. But we have covered this in France, and I suspect with some of the police officers it's a question of conscience kicking in many of the cases. Frequency changes applies and affects the all, not just the awake people, and some react differently to it. You know, like I said, I did that piece back in 2014-15 about the dangers that the police face in the coming years, and asked them to down tools and help the people, or continue to prop up what then was a failing system, now it's a failed system, or they would pay the price. And this is what we are seeing now, is the consequences of supporting a failed system. And in many cases within police ranks, also playing the system, as we all know. Being involved in all kinds of criminality themselves, knowing full well they are largely protected by the fraternal order or the Freemasonic Brotherhood system. Now, the NYPD can either sit there like a target at a shooting range and face being fired at by officials and the public alike, or form a collective within your ranks and walk out as one. Expose Citadel Vice Group that's running them, expose the Hillary and Hoomer video, and expose the never-ending pit of death and corruption that proliferates through the whole of Gotham. The public will support you, both vocally and with funds to compensate lack of pay. Of that I'm certain. Walk out. The same with the so-called French police, although I suspect some of them are not cops at all, but hired assassins from mercenary and so-called private security groups. The real police need to walk away. Ask the French public to support their stance before more people, either police or civilians, lose their lives unnecessarily, all supporting a failed control system. It's going to get worse. As the people get more and more angry, the police are the first line of defence. You're going to take their anger. Don't. The system you support won't save you. Not interested. That's why they pay you shit pay. Step out. Greg Craig, a prominent Washington lawyer and former White House counsel under Barack Obama, was found not guilty by a jury Wednesday of false statements to the Justice Department about his work for the pro-Russian government of the Ukraine in 2012. All so predictable, is it not? So even when they go to court, jack shit happens. The reason why he got off of it was to protect Biden, that's why, and other clans that are involved in the Ukrainian coup. Mass arrests, you're having a laugh. Final piece before we go into the intel, and this has been coming, sadly. So after much ado and many promises by various alt-media groups that justice will be served after lengthy investigations surrounding the Mueller investigation that involved politicians, the DOJ, FBI and CIA at a staggering cost. What it has shown is the levels of corruption go high and deep, involving all departments. We've all found that out now. Which are now courtesy of Obama and Biden of being politicised in favour of one group, the Democrats. Now, people can babble all they like about democracy and constitutions all day long, but none apply in this country. None whatsoever. I did state not much would come from all these investigations. Waiting for FISA, JFK or any other documents was pure folly and a distraction, which I got some kickback for. But that's going against what Q said. That may very well be the case. But time has proven my stance correct. As much as that saddens me, I would have liked to have been wrong. So what's this piece about? James Comey, found guilty of stealing documents and leaking them to the press. And what did he get? A rebuke. It sums it all up for me and showed the man's arrogance during it all. So why was he acting that way? Because like Mnuchin and many others, they don't think they're above the law, they know it. And therein lies the problem. You know, I've said many things in the last few shows, and one of the main points was accountability. Authority groups in this and many other countries have zero accountability, no oversight, and even when caught, they get no more than a kindergarten slap on the wrist. The government is the hamster wheel, described last week. Same shit, different day. Repeat ad nauseum. So Comey stole documents and then leaked them, and he gets a rebuke. Neither party is fit to run this country. Both are riddled with agendas, self-serving greed merchants, and not one appears to have the ability to future think or come up with simple basic solutions to make things better. Despite the current government having received several basic but innovative ideas from the Trust, to date not one of them has been implemented. Not one. Well, we have a national crisis on our hands in two of the three corridors of power, the military arm and the financial arm, both in the US and the UK. Both commit criminal acts in the corridors of power, and neither are accountable for them. And neither, given the UK cancelled Parliament last week, which is like cancelling Congress or the House. Although I will say the reason they cancelled it over Brexit, politicians have had 40 months to make a decision on Brexit. 40 months. And nothing. Just like I said back in that show in April on the night that vote took place. And both countries show a complete disregard of the rule of law and a complete contempt for the people that they're tasked to look after. So what's the solution? Well, solutions are difficult when you have a brainwashed citizens following the spoon-fed narrative from mainstream media. And I have to say also some of the faction-led alt-media groups as well. They're not helping. The solution is twofold. Don't vote for any main candidates. Vote for a complete unknown. They can't do any worse than those who are in power currently. Surely they must do something better. People may cry, but we don't know who they are, we don't know what they stand for, or their policies, some will cry. My reply is, too few really know who the current ones are, what they stand for, and as for their policies, my answer to that is virtually the whole country is unaware of policies. In both countries. No one follows policies. The people don't dictate policies, which we should be doing, and the media don't discuss policies, only drama. Policies are what decides how well or not a country is running. Yet 3 years into this administration, has anything really changed? It'll only change when the people decide the policies, not the government. Implement our policy, or we the people will vote you out. It's that simple. and place our own candidate in. That's the end goal of the People's Club. Not the beginning, the end. More jobs, they're telling us, in both countries. Yet large businesses are downsizing and going bankrupt every day. So where are these extra jobs coming from? The markets are doing great, they tell us. Yet that appeases the top 1 to 5% and does nothing for the other 95 to 99%. 3 years on, and the wall's not built. Despite the Trust's best efforts to pay for the whole wall entirely. A wall designed to keep the criminals out. But what does that wall do if you have hundreds, if not thousands, of criminals in the top echelons of society? Nothing. It's like putting a firewall on a computer riddled with viruses. It just seals them in. And Comey will be the first of many who will get a slap on the wrist and just walk away. That won't happen, say the Q followers. It already has, is my reply. And I will make no apologies for saying I told you so this time. And as much as I would have loved to have been proven wrong, because it's more important to me that the country does the right things than me being right. But at what point are we the people going to finally see through all this illusion and act? Not wait for this, that and the other. It has and will achieve nothing. He just got a slap on the wrist, stealing top secret documents and handing them to the press. If that's not national security, I don't know what is.